Well, as reported earlier, remittances sent by Kenyans living abroad dipping to 103.4 million shillings in March. That's from 106 million shillings. Now, remittances are the main sources of foreign exchange for East Africa's biggest economy. So for a closer look at the trends on this and Kenya's reliance on this income, we've got aly-khan, CEO of Rich Management, joining us from our Nairobi studios. Aly-khan, it's great to have you on Closing Bell today. So looking at remittances...
Thank you for having me.
I mean, dipping back slightly in the latest figures we see, but overall, last year hitting an all-time high, $1.17 billion. So basically becoming a very important source, as they always have been, but moving up the list of important sources of foreign exchange earnings. Just tell us about your thoughts on the kind of the role that remittances are playing in the Kenyan economy right now.
Well, it's very much a last decade phenomenon. It was practically zero more than 10 years ago, and it's now the largest foreign exchange earner in a way for the Kenyan economy. It's overtaken every other export earner. So it's a major player in terms of the economy. I think, although month on month you saw a $3 million dip, it's notoriously difficult to capture the data accurately. There's quite a lot still comes through informal channels. So there is volatility in the number, but if you go into the central bank's balance sheet, there are some numbers there which seem to indicate it's considerably higher. And in my estimation, remittances are probably undercounted by about 50%. So very significant income for the country.
So when it comes to, of course, a foreign exchange earner, yes, but is that money really making its way into the real economy? Is it helping to grow Kenya? Is it helping to build Kenya and take it to the next level?
Well, it's quite interesting because for a long time it was seen very much as a subsistence game, in that money was being sent home to families, it was being spent on necessities and wasn't really invested. But increasingly, I think folks abroad sending their money back home are looking for investment vehicles. I went with Kenya Commercial Bank last year on an investor relations roadshow, and we were inundated with people who are abroad sending money home, looking for opportunities with which to invest their money. And as you probably noted, in the last 12 to 18 months, it's become a very big factor for the banks as they try and capture some of these investment flows. So I think it started off as very much a subsistence thing, but it's increasingly become a tool for investment. I mean, we live in a world where investment returns are so small in the Western world that you would have to be a little bit insane not to be looking at opportunities back home where the returns are so much greater. And I think we're clearly seeing that happen.
Now, when I was in your part of the world, in Nairobi, at Jomo Kenyatta Airport, I picked up a magazine talking about, of course, Nairobi being, fast-growing real estate sector. In fact, one of the fastest-growing real estate spots in the world. And many say that diaspora money is really fueling the real estate bubble, if you could call it that, in Nairobi right now, and broadly more in Kenya. So what are your thoughts on that and the diaspora's role in that?
Well, the Kenyans abroad and at home have an enormous faith in bricks and mortar. It reminds me of when I lived in Britain, very similar. So you're absolutely right. They've been a big factor in the real estate space. Our real estate has been in a sweet spot for a number of years. I think you're referring to a Knight Frank report, which put Mombasa, Nairobi first and second in 2011, I think. And we've continued to see very good returns. They're a big player, but also, we have the hub effect, we have a shortage of land, we have increasing, we have an economy that's growing, and the demand of housing far outstrips the supply. So, and there's very little leverage in the system. There are about 26,000 mortgages. So you're talking about a very interesting market. And you're quite correct. A lot of diaspora money's come back. I live in a compound of 14 houses, and 6 out of those 14 are owned by Kenyans abroad and rented out. So, you can see that.
And you're talking about, of course, going on a roadshow with banks looking to channel money offshore back home, these remittances. What about a diaspora bond? Is that feasible? That's been talked about for some time now. Does that make sense?
I think that's entirely predictable and predicted. Sometimes I think we're being a bit slow out of the blocks. After all, we're now behind Rwanda in terms of issuing a sovereign Eurobond, but again, I expect that to be launched imminently. And I think a diaspora bond would be a very easy way for Kenyans to tap into the patriotism and tap into the flows. And I think that surely will happen in the next few months. I'm surprised it hasn't happened so far, but I think that was more around the elections and the fact we needed to see some political stability. We've got that now. We've had a significant de-risking of Kenya Inc. And I think this is a practically ideal opportunity for the authorities to launch a diaspora bond and a sovereign bond. And I think we'll see that extremely soon.